Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And bad news, you're not going to be able to see the Alita re-release on October 30th at Regal theaters because they're shutting them all down.
Yeah, Regal. Other theaters, you can't.
Other theaters. So we're going to talk...
Unless they shut those down too.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, there's news out there that Regal and Cineworld are going to be shutting down. They just put this notice up, like a couple days after, hey guys, you're getting Alita. As in response to an increasingly challenging theatrical landscape and sustained key market closures, California and New York, Regal will suspend operations at all theaters. It closed the business on Thursday, October 8th until further notice.
So all those people got back to work are now laid off again.
Yeah, 45,000 people worldwide.
Furloughed, I'm sorry.
Furloughed.
Well, first of all, make sure you subscribe.
Yeah, please subscribe. Do that.
We keep forgetting to say that. So
yeah, I know, right? People got mad. They were like, you guys are begging for subs. I'm like, we're not begging for subs. We're just trying to remind people because they think they're subbed, but they're not actually subbed. And YouTube does unsub people.
It happens all the time.
It happens.
So back to this. Okay, explain. Walk us through.
Walk us through. Okay, so they are going to close down all Regal cinemas in the U.S. So actually all Regal and Cineworld movie theaters worldwide. And I guess the straw that broke the camel's back, as I understand it, was James Bond.
Yes, that's what I was seeing too.
They're like, if we can just hold out for James Bond.
But wasn't it before that, if we could just hold out for Tenet and all that, and then it didn't bring the boom they thought it would? I mean, flipping Hocus Pocus we released was doing as well as Tenet.
I know, it's pretty sad, isn't it?
Yeah, they had Empire Strikes Back doing, out there kicking butt with Tenet.
Yeah, and yeah, theaters they're in a bad place. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the long-term damage, the long tail I think that this thing is going to have. We've talked about with the Disney parks in the previous video, but this is not going to be fixed. The mouse tail.
You keep saying long tail today. It's your word for the... Neon's word for the day is long tail.
So you have to scream real loud every time you hear it.
And the number of the day is what? 0.
0?
I don't know. It was like Sesame Street. The word number of the day.
Today's secret word is long tail.
Long tail.
Well, yeah, because that's
safe
a
word.
businessy safe word. Long tail. Long tail.
Stop! Don't do that again. Please don't ever do that again.
Anyway, okay, so and that's a businessy term, right? This is what we used to use in the marketing world. It basically means that even though we're out of the woods, we're not out of the woods. And what's going to happen is, even if theaters came back online next week, like all of them came back online, it's still, there's damage done. And this damage could take years, years to be undone. And Hollywood is not going to recover. You can't just like turn Hollywood back on.
Right. And people are like you have the Hollywood Reporter article where they're like, studios must be willing to take a hit to save cinemas, but they don't really need cinemas. So the question is, what are studios going to do? Are they going to do what they need to do to save themselves? Or are they going to do what they need to do to keep the cinema chains from collapsing? Well,
and that's the thing. We saw what happened with Universal and DreamWorks with Trolls 2, where the theater organization, whatever it's called, they were flipping out on Universal. They're like, how dare you? How dare you release a movie to VOD? But now it's going to come down to whether or not the studios want to survive, or whether or not their primary concern is keeping the movie theaters going. And I think most businesses are going to be like, we got to do what we got to do to stay in business. So I think we are going to see more VOD. I think movie theaters they're always going to be around, but I think they're going to be sort of relegated to, oh, by the way, you can go check this out in the theater. Kind of like, we were at Walmart today and we were looking at the vinyl. Like vinyl.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Like vinyl had this huge resurgence in the last year or two. And especially at Walmart, like the fact that you can actually go through the actual records at Walmart.
He always stops and does this, but he has liked records for years. Before it was cool, before that the hipsters have brought it back.
I remember records when you actually could buy them in the store for real.
Yeah, well, that's what they're doing now.
Yeah,
but it's not the same thing.
The first time, yeah.
The time that counted.
Well, my mom worked at a record store when I was a kid, so I was always in the record store, and I would always look through the albums and stuff. So anyway, it kind of reminds me of that, where we're going to have movie theaters. I think we'll have movie theaters showing like niche movies or new releases or whatever, but I think it's going to be more of a novelty. I don't think it's going to be the backbone of the entertainment industry anymore.
Well, let's back up a second here. You said, so this whole thing was because of James Bond. So they pushed James Bond back, I'm guessing. I haven't followed this today.
Yeah, they pushed James Bond. They were hoping for No Time to Die to come out at Thanksgiving, and they've actually pushed it back. And they said that Regal owner Cineworld announced on Monday morning that every Regal location in the U.S. as well as every Cineworld location in the U.K. would be suspending operations on a temporary basis. We'll see if it's temporary. There isn't yet a date set for reopening. They said in response to an increasingly challenging theatrical landscape and sustained key market closures, which we talked about.
They're saying a lot of it has to do with New York.
Yeah, they said this time there were a couple of major movies still set to be released in November. Both The Croods, which I know they're doing another Croods.
I did, because I saw the trailer.
And Pixar's Soul, which I actually think looks pretty good. You're like, whatever.
Well, I mean, they don't push it back again or go right to Disney Plus.
Yeah. That doesn't seem likely at the moment that they're going to even be out at Thanksgiving. The loss of Black Widow and No Time to Die, a James Bond movie, was likely powerful enough to keep theaters closed for a while. It also hasn't helped that theaters in major markets like New York never even had the chance to reopen. And I mean, New York, California, a lot of states in major lockdown. Now, our theaters, I think, are open here. The drive-ins have been doing really well.
Yeah, drive-ins are doing well. We haven't been to the theater or even looked to see about going to the theater.
There's nothing to see.
I would have gone and watched Empire in theater again. I would have. Hocus Pocus. We've been so busy. I never even checked. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah, we have mostly AMCs around here. Now, when we were down in Florida last week at Disney Springs, their AMC was open. Yeah, it was cool because they had Akira. They're playing Akira.
Oh, that was over at Universal.
Was that Universal?
Yeah, that was similar.
Oh, it might have been Universal. Okay. But yeah, I thought that was actually pretty cool. But yeah, everything is going to change after this. And Hollywood is going to have to get its head out of its ass because the money's not going to flow like water anymore.
No.
And they're going to have to work harder to make probably less money. Yeah. And a lot of these celebrities are going to have to, come down a few pegs, I think.
Well, it's funny because the releases keep getting shuffled, and they had there was a trailer for Ryan Reynolds' new movie Fall Guy. They did a trailer for the possible trailer, and the joke was it's coming someday. They think it's coming this date, but let's do a bunch of teasers in case it's not till Christmas this year. It's Halloween someday, Valentine's Day, Labor Day.
Yeah.
It's really funny, actually. If you go out to Twitter or to YouTube, you can find it. But it's making a joke about the fact that they don't know because it keeps getting changed. The studios keep changing things, we don't know.
So, I just love this. They're like, studios must be willing to take a hit. They're not going to be willing to take a hit.
No, they're more than willing to let the cinema chains keep taking the hits.
I mean, what this reminds me of, it's kind of like the comic book industry. I remember the comic book industry, as things moved into digital and to graphic novels, everybody was like, well, what about the comic book shops? What about the single issues? Oh, we gotta make sure we don't run too far, too fast, too soon, because we might leave these outdated business models in the dust. Yeah, it's okay that you're selling cars, but what about the poor horse and buggy manufacturers?
Yeah.
You got to think about them. And that's kind of what's going on.
They still have those around here.
They do.
It's called the Amish.
The Amish. See, again.
They actually do have stuff like that.
They're like hipsters. They're into old school transportation.
There you go. That'd be the next movement.
It's the vinyl of automobiles.
Vinyl's the gateway. You start out in vinyl, next thing you know, you've got a horse and buggy.
That's right. Anyway, that's what's going to happen here. Everything's going to go to digital, to streaming, and theaters are, a lot of them, going to be left in the dust. I think it's going to be like arcades and comic shops where we still have them, but they're more niche and they're more in, like, I guess, urban areas. It's more for the novelty, I think, of having them.
To me, it's just saying that studios have to be willing to take a hit is well, one, the studios aren't going to.
No, they're not.
I mean, they were willing to do that for a while to save face. A couple places like Universal went right to putting Trolls out on streaming and took so much crap for it. But they're going to have to get their money back somehow. That's why Mulan was on Disney Plus. And when he was asked, Chapek was asked if that was the new way they were going to do things, he said, well, no, it's not how we're going to do things. But then he followed with, but we'll see how it goes. Which means, yes, it's the new way we're planning on doing things. I'm just not telling you and the cinemas that. So, they
got to do what they got to do to survive.
Right.
It's the same with comics. I mean, comics, people are getting upset that people aren't, that DC pulled out of Diamond and that more and more people are doing crowdfunding and selling direct to consumer, but they got to survive. So that's just the way it's going to go. So the new James Bond film delay has left the slate a virtual ghost town during the months of October and November, says B. Riley's Eric Wold, as cinema stocks fell sharply, and he speaks out against state restrictions. The 007 movie's postponement creates a 2-month calendar gap, he said. With the news late Friday that No Time to Die is being moved from November to April, the already shaky near-term film slate that we have been concerned about since June is now becoming a virtual ghost. There's nothing new coming
Right, so why stay open? Why have that overhead if no one's going to come anyway? That's kind of what they're looking at, I'm sure.
Yeah, so he also had some words for Hollywood studios and local authorities. While we can understand the studio's desire to hold releases until the release environment is perfect, we also believe studios must be willing to take a hit to feed the industry and keep the exhibitor group from completely falling
Basically,
apart.
stop pulling your movies and moving them. Let them go to theaters and fail so that the theaters, not do as well as you'd like, so the theaters can stay open, is what they're saying.
You guys
Translation.
you guys should be willing to lose $500 million on a movie just because, it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And that's not how these studios are.
If you've been around people in Hollywood, right thing to do isn't what they always go by.
We're talking about Disney that filmed Mulan near concentration camps. I don't think
Netflix
they care.
that doubled down on cuties.
I don't think they care. It's going to be every rat for themselves. And they're talking about how, the states aren't, they're not as lenient with movie theaters as they are.
They basically
with
blame New
restaurants.
York. I'm not going. They're saying it's New York. They put a lot of it onto New York and the way that they were doing things. I don't know. This article doesn't talk about that, but other articles I saw, they pretty much the Cineworld, it would be Regal CEO was basically saying that a lot of it had to do with New York. So
I mean, this is bad. I feel bad for anyone working for Regal. Unfortunately,
cinemas in general, it can't be good.
It can't be good, and this is going to be the new way going forward.
Cinemas were barely hanging on some places before this.
Yeah, I mean, people were like, "Why are the concessions so crazy expensive?" I mean, this is. I think I always thought it was common knowledge, but apparently it's not that common. That the movie theaters hardly make any money on the movies. The studio makes a lion's share. To make money, the theaters have to, upcharge on the concessions and stuff
then
like
Disney has been on. They have it on record several times where Disney was demanding much larger cuts of certain movies. Like I think Star Wars was among them.
Yeah, last year.
Other things they were asking for a lot more money from the studios. So the studios, you get the honor of running our films, but you get less money for it, and you have to meet all these guidelines that we're putting in place. But you get the honor of staying in business because we're letting you run our movies. You know what? To just tell them no. I mean, tell the studios no.
Yeah, that's it. And it's a weird situation they have here. It's kind of this codependent relationship that they have. It's kind of parasitic.
They've already been taken advantage of for years by especially Disney.
Yeah.
Like you said, they get a lot of their money from the concessions. Why else do you think the concessions are so expensive? Mm-hmm. And why do you think they care so much people bring food in? So, they didn't tell the studios to stick it then, and now they have no leverage.
I got kicked out of Attack of the Clones.
Oh, that was your own stupidity. I could have smacked you.
I didn't see her right away. I took a drink. I had a bottle of Pepsi in my coat pocket, and I dared take a drink. And there was a theater employee. This is like midnight showing of Attack of the Clones, like way back in the day, and I had
okay.
To
No, you're spitting it completely wrong. One, they had the theater heat cranked up really, really, really high. It was ridiculously hot in there, and it was intentional, I'm sure. But the person's right in front of him, and he pulls the drink out and takes a drink right in front of them. And obviously, it wasn't their brand because it wasn't the right size.
It wasn't Coke.
And he got in trouble for it. So he had to buy one of theirs. But it was his own stupidity because like he usually does, he doesn't pay attention to what's going on around him.
I didn't realize
he got flipping caught.
I didn't think it was a theater owner or the theater worker.
No, the person was walking around selling drinks. Because the theater was full of people waiting they were letting people in way early before it started.
That was the same night that they cranked the heat up.
They did. It was ridiculous.
And then they brought around a little push cart.
They did. And now you remember that? This is the person you just said was this.
I don't remember who was pushing the cart.
It was a push cart, and that's and then he pulls it out right in front of the push cart and drinks it in front of them. I was just like, watch me suck my Pepsi, bitch. No, you weren't. You were like, I'm hot and thirsty, and I'm not paying attention. And then you got caught.
Anyway,
that's what it was.
Anyway,
I'm telling the story like it was. I was there.
That was back in the day. I was definitely hot and thirsty. Anyway, but yeah, they jacked the heat up, and then they brought the push cart of Coke out, and they were like $5 for freaking Coke. I'm like, I'm not paying $5 for a Coke.
Now, I will admit that since in our recent years, because we want to be a good example to our kids, we actually buy this stuff at the theater.
Yeah, we used to smuggle. Come on, everybody does it. We used to go get like the dollar boxes of theater candy at the dollar store.
We don't do that now. We haven't for a while. We buy the subscription bucket, and where you buy the yearly fee and refills and all that. We just do that.
That's actually, that's kind
we cared what happened to people that work there.
The popcorn subscription service.
There you go.
The $25 bucket.
It's like $5 refills or whatever.
But they've been trying everything to keep theaters going, and it's I mean, it's sad. It is. It does feel like this is the end of an era. But it shows how weak, I guess. I mean, for all the talk of like big box office, how thin of a thread Hollywood was actually hanging by. All it took was, pandemic to come, and
I think most businesses were hanging by a thin thread. You wouldn't have well, it's a thread that was hidden. Here the thread was holding it all together, but it was hidden under other threads, so no one really expected that to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they were. Well, no, I think everybody thought that Hollywood, companies like Disney were in better financial shape. Like, they got lots of money in the bank.
Yeah, you can only juggle so many things so long, and then eventually it comes to light.
Yeah, and the more they make, the more they spend, and now it's all catching up with them. Hollywood they never thought the gravy train was going to end, and they don't have the money. I mean, the one thing going forward from this, regardless of what business you're in, is, these companies have to have at least a year or two of operating money.
It seems like every so many decades, a big thing hits like this to remind people to not be stupid. And it's businesses and individuals, and it's like every so many decades, something bad happens. Sadly, this was a really bad one. But it does, and it's they had the Great Depression, and different things happening. I know in the 70s they had a lot of things happen with shortages and stuff, and it just reminds people, you always have to have backups. You always have to, think about everything you wouldn't normally think of, and never get too comfortable.
Yeah, and that's it. Hollywood got comfortable. They got lazy,
arrogant.
They became very arrogant, and
Disney did.
Yeah, they're going to be absolutely humbled by this. I feel bad for the people losing their jobs, but I don't think things are going to be the same.
Real quick, I have a funny popcorn story as well. Well, it's not funny. It's just like I thought it was so clever when they were doing the re-releases of the Star Wars films. We went to the theater and they had a special where you got the unlimited popcorn. So we went to Kmart and bought a bunch of paper bags. So there was several of us, and we just fill the paper bags and then go get more popcorn, and then go fill the bags up again and get more popcorn because it was unlimited. Didn't say how many people. We didn't say how many people it was for, that it was unlimited. So there were several of us off of one unlimited popcorn bucket.
It's like popcorn socialism.
That's right.
That's right. Everybody has to eat everybody else's popcorn. Mm-hmm. One person buys the popcorn, everybody else eats it.
That's right.
Yeah, because that's only fair.
Actually, I had no problem buying the popcorn. Everybody else ate it. We all shared it. It was fine. So anyway, let's wrap this up because we've gone all over the place with this video.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.